And this has to do with the slow angular wobble that the Earth maintains as it rotates on its axis. Mm-hmm. The different ages in the Bible, then, correspond to these ages of the zodiac. Mm-hmm. So he says, in the Old Testament, when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the Ten Commandments, he's very upset to see people worshiping a golden bull calf. Well, is this because they were worshiping an idol? They were erecting a false image?
No. Oh, no, of course not.
No, not at all. The reality, he says, is that the golden bull is Taurus the bull, and Moses represents the new age of Aries the ram. This is why Jews, even today, blow the ram's horn, which is complete bullshit. That this is the reason for it. Moses represents the new age of Aries, and upon the new age, everyone must shed the old age. Why is he so pissed off at the bull?
Not because it's Baal.
Yeah, it's the old age's iconography.
Right.
If he had cracked open the Bible and bothered to read it, he would realize how ridiculous this is.
Well, it's allegory. They wouldn't say it right out.
Well, first of all, if you look at the construction of the temple,
right,
there's bull imagery all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
The molten sea rests on statues of bulls. Mm-hmm. There's bull images in prophetic visions of Isaiah. And really, if you trace this back, we know in the Canaanite pantheon, there was a bull god, a fertility god.
Several
because bulls are fertility symbols.
Yes.
There was a bull god, the bull calf, Yah.
Mm-hmm.
Yah as short for Yahweh.
Yep.
There are probably Canaanite origins to these associations between the bull imagery and Yahweh. Now, if he was right that this was a reference to the zodiac and they were casting aside the old age's image, well, then you would never see these things come up in future Israel. They would be seen as idolatrous. But that's clearly not the case. It doesn't fit with the context. And there's a much better explanation for it. He does the same thing with Christianity. He says Jesus is the figure who initiates the age of Pisces, the age of the fish. And he says, look at all the fish iconography, all the fish images that you'll find in the New Testament. Well, yeah, there's a couple,
sure,
especially since they're from Galilee and they are fishermen.
Right. They're a seafaring people.
I think we've all seen the Jesus fish on the backs of people's cars, he says. Little do they know what it actually means. Actually, a lot of them do know what it means. It means ichthus, which is an acronym.
Jesus Christos Theos Dios Soter.
There you go.
No one gives me credit when I'm right.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And Luke, that's an acronym for?
I forgot. Jesus Christos Theos Eos Soter.
Jesus Christ.
God's Son, Savior.
Right.
Yes. Jesus Christ, Son of God, Savior.
But why is it a fish?
Because that acronym ichthus also means fish.
Yes.
In Greek.
It's a clever play on words.
Well, and it was a great way for Christians to let each other know that they were Christians,
which is still what it's used for. Why am I seeing that on like bags of chips and cereal and stuff? If you look, and eggs, there are eggs with Jesus fish on them.
Because don't go casting your bread to keep the heathen well fed.
No.
Line Christian pockets instead.
Wow.
Amway?
There are better explanations for the fish imagery.
Simpler, ones with historical backing, as opposed to just conspiracy talk.
Then assuming this is all some elaborate zodiac analogy.
When the moon...
I can't get that out of my head ever since I watched this movie.
Well, that's the other claim he makes, too.
Yeah.
He says that the end of the age is just the end of the age. The next one is Aquarius. And he says all these Christians who believe in end times and apocalyptic stuff have just misunderstood this astrological analogy. Well, he's, again, completely ignoring an entire history of apocalyptic messianism in that region that goes back hundreds of years before Jesus and continues on after Jesus' death. I mean, you have a couple of facts that he can point to weave this theory of his, but you have mountains of information that he just ignores.
it compiles together things that are true with a bunch of other things that are patently false, and also things that are distortions or stretching, all together into one stew, which makes it fair game for then Christian apologists to say that all of it is tainted and nonsense.
Yeah, that's right.
So if a skeptic did want to know about valid origins of the Bible and Christianity that are traced back to actual historical things and even astrology, where should this skeptic look then?
Well, one place to turn would be Tim Callahan's writings. Not that they're above criticism, but I think he does a pretty good job. And he also did an incredible job critiquing the film Zeitgeist. So he's going to join us on the show now. Tim Callahan is the author of Secret Origins of the Bible, Bible Prophecy, Failure, or Fulfillment, and the religion editor for Skeptic Magazine. And if you've ever listened to our Skeptic Sunday School segments, you've definitely heard his name before. So I'm very excited to finally get a chance to talk to him in person. And here it is, Tim Callahan on Reasonable Doubts. You begin your critique of the Zeitgeist film in an article for Skeptic Magazine by saying, perhaps the worst aspect of Peter Joseph's film Zeitgeist is that some of what it asserts is true. What were some things that you considered to be more or less accurate?
Certainly, the argument that the Gospels are, by and large, fiction is a good argument, and that there is some pagan material in the Christ myth. In fact, it's even ancient, early Christians, I should say, agreed to this. If I can find it here, I've got a quote from Justin Martyr. Justin Martyr's First Apology, chapter 21, says, "And when we say of the Word, who was the firstborn of God, was produced without sexual union, and that he, Jesus Christ, our teacher, was crucified and died and rose again and ascended into heaven, we propound nothing different from what you already believe, considering those who you esteem as sons of Zeus." And he goes on and tells about all these different people who parallel Jesus, whether it's Hermes or Asclepius or Heracles or Dionysus and so on. And so, yes, there's a lot of mythology. In fact,